Join me as we learn Chumash for the fourth Torah reading, Wednesday, Parshas Emor, chapter 23. Today we're going to learn about the Shabbos and the festivals as given to the Jewish people of how they should observe it. Chapter 23, verse 1. Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe Emor, God spoke to Moses, saying, Daber el bnei Yisrael, speak to the Jewish people, V'yamart aleim, when you will tell them, Moyadei Hashem, the festivals of God, these appointed days, Asher tikru eisam, that you will call them upon you, that you will designate these holy occasions, Mikroye Kodesh, they become holy occasions, Eila Moyadei, these are my appointed holy days. Rashi, Daber el bnei Yisrael, Moyadei Hashem, Asay Moyades, make appointed times. So you call Yisrael Moyad Bahem, that all the Jewish people will participate in these things, that they will come up to the Holy Temple and celebrate these times. Melamed, we learn from this, from Abri Masashana, how we have to make a Jewish leap year this way, that the Pesach will always be in spring. This is also talking about the times of the Sanhedrin, when they would be the ones to decide about the leap year. And there would be a need for the people that are living outside the land of Israel, that they would have to come to Oila Regel, to come to the Holy Temple, and they haven't yet reached Jerusalem, and therefore there would have to be a time, and there would have to be times to postpone, so to speak, to how to add in another month and how to create the leap years. Verse 3, 6 days a week, work may be performed. And on the seventh day will be a time of holiness, a day of absolute rest, complete rest. Mikra Kodesh, a day of holy, day that you would call a holy occasion. Kol malach no work should be done. Shabbos il Hashem, this is a Shabbos for God. B'chol meishveisechem, in all your dwelling places. Sheishes yamim. Ma'in Shabbos Eitzel Moedis. Why does it tell us about Shabbos if it's coming to tell us about the festivals? He just started saying that you're going to make when the festival should be, and then he tells us about Shabbos. Lamedcha, to tell us, whoever desecrates the festivals, you may think, oh, the festivals are only made by man, not by God, because the actual calendar was set by man by the Bezdin. It's as if he desecrated the Shabbos as well. Someone who keeps the festivals, it's as if, and is considered as if you have observed and reward that you keep for Shabbos. Verse 4. These are the following are God's appointed days. Mikroye Kodesh, they're designated for holy occasions. Asher tikru esam b'moyedem, that you will designate them in such of the appointed time. Verse 4. Eila moyedei Hashem. Before, in verse 2, it's talking about in the time that they were obligated to make a leap year, to make the leap year so that Pesach comes out in spring, so the people should be able to come to their holy temple. Here it's talking about that the actual month, which months were 29, which ones were 30, and depending when the witnesses would come and they would see the new moon, that's when they would determine when Rosh Chodesh would be. Starting with the first festival, which is Pesach. B'chodesh Adishon, the first month, Be'arba Asar al-Chodesh, on the 14th day of the month, Bein Harbayim, in the evening, in the afternoon. Pesach Lashem, it will be considered Pesach for God. What does this mean? Rashi. Bein Harbayim, what is the afternoon? Mishay Shais, from the 6th hour in the day, Ulamaila and onward, which is from midday. Pesach Lashem, Hakravas Korban Shishmei Pesach. That is the time that you will bring the Paschal offering. Verse 6. On the 15th day, Lachedesh of this month, Lachedesh of this first month, Chag HaMatzos Lashem will be the period, the festival of Matzos, in honor of God. It's going to be Shivas Yamim, for 7 days it's going to be a period of a holiday. Matzos Techelu, you must eat Matzos. Verse 7, by Yom HaRishon Mikra Kodesh, the first day will be considered a holy occasion. Yilachem for you, no work shall be done. Verse 8, if ye craftem Isha Hashem, you will then bring a sacrifice to God, Shivas Yamim, for 7 days. By Yom HaShvi Mikra Kodesh, the 7th day will also be considered holy. No mundane work shall be performed. And the Torah reading of Pinchas, it tells us about the different sacrifices that were brought every day, and there was an additional sacrifice besides the regular sacrifices, and this is what it's referring to here. Lam and Hemra count. So why does it say it here? Mustafa Makman says that to teach us that if you don't have the opportunity to bring one or the other, you can bring whatever there is. If you don't have the cows, bring the rams. If you don't have both, bring the sheep. One does not hold back the other. Whatever you have, you bring. Shivas yamim, kol makim shenever shivas. Every time it says 7, not the word shiv'ah, it says shiv'as, with a suf at the end. Shem davar, who it's like a noun, meaning shavua shal yamim, a week of days. Anytime you'll have the suf at the end, it's also not telling you necessarily of 7 days. It's telling you about as consecutive days that it's referring to. What does it mean in work? It means over here work which is considered mundane work that is needed. You may have a loss, but that means even work which you need to do, and even work which will mean that you will cause a loss of money because of it. Still in all, you're not allowed to work on those days. That means it's prohibited to work on Yom Tov, even if it means you may lose money because of it. This is the way we understand it from Teres Kehanim. Yochel, I would think this also includes Cholabayin. Should also be prohibited, and therefore it tells us later on in the other holidays at Tzeres you have to hold on and you hold back, and therefore it depends which days it's referring to of not working on those days. Verse 9. And God spoke to Moshe saying, Dabar b'nei Yisrael, speak to the Jewish people. V'amarta you'll tell them, Kisafah, you'll let us, and you'll come to the land. Ashanim nesanachem, that I'm going to give you. Uktzartem es kitzira, and you will then reap your harvest. V'avesam es omer, you will bring the omer, which is 1/10 of an ephah, which is about 2.5 liters of barley. Reishis kitzirchem ala kohen, the beginning of your harvest, you will have to give to the kohen. Reishis kitzirchem, Rashi. It's going to be the first one of your harvest. Omer, how much is an omer? Asira sa'efa is 1/10 of an ephah. V'kacha is a shma, this is what they used to call it. Omer, kemoi was a measurement. Kemoi v'yamoidu ba'omer, that they measured the omer. Verse 11. V'heinif es ha'omer, you will then wave that omer. We're l'fnei Hashem, before God. L'tzeinchem, so it will find favor for you. Memocheres HaShabbos, the day after Pesach, the day after the first day of Pesach, Yinefenu HaKohen is when you will wave the Kohen will wave it. Rashi, V'heinif, Kol Tenufa, any time that he uses the terminology of waving, Moilechu Mevi, he brings it up and down. Lahatzei Ruach Rois, to hold back the bad spirits that come from the sides. Mailu Muded, up and down, Latzer Tlolim Roim, to withhold of the bad dew or the moisture that may come from up and down. If you do it properly, then it will be for your favor. From the day after Shabbos, doesn't mean on a Sunday. The day after the first day of Pesach. Shabbos, if it means that it talks about Shabbos Bereshis, it should be the first Shabbos. How do you know which Shabbos it's talking about? Which Saturday? So therefore it must be that it's talking about after the first day of Pesach. Because we find many times it says the first day is holy, the 8th day is holy. Which Shabbos am I talking about? So therefore it's telling us on the 16th of Nisan, which is also called Shabbos, the day of rest, and it's the day after that. So the second day of Pesach. Verse 12. And on the same day that you wave the omer, you will then bring keves tamim, a unblemished lamb, ben shnasai, a year old, in its first year, lo'ilas, and a scent offering l'Hashem to God. Vasisem keves, this lamb that you're going to bring, lo'imeruba, choyve lo'imeruba, this is a specific animal sacrifice which is in honor of the sacrifice of the omer. Verse 13, and its libation, it's a meal offering. Shnei esreinim selis, 2/10 of an ephah fine flour. Blula b'Hashem, mixed with oil. Ishal Hashem is a meal offering, it's a fire offering for God. Reach necheich, to please God. Veniske, and its libation, yayin of wine. Revia sahin is 1/4 of a hin of wine as usual. This is the meal offering that came together with the lamb. Shnei esreinim, 2 Kfula was double than it was usual than the other sacrifices. Veniske, its wine libation. Yain Revia Sahin, it was 1/4 of a hin. Even though the meal offering was double, but ein sachav kulam, but the wine libation was not. V'lechem v'koli v'karmel, you must not eat any of the bread, parched kernels, or fresh kernels. Lo seichel, you should not eat that. That's my yemazeh until the middle of the day. Until this very day, until you bring this sacrifice of the Omer, this is an eternal rule throughout the generations, in all of your places of residence. The koli, what is this type of that he's bringing here? Koli is kemach osim dogon. This is flour which made osim mikarmel rachshem yapshnis v'tanor. This is flour which is made of wheat, which is soft wheat, which was then dried out in the oven, which we're talking about parched kernels. The caramel is these kernels, which are fresh kernels. And over here we talk about a law, which there's hotly debated until today. If the chneklu b'chacham Yisrael, yeshalam the mekan shechadash neg v'chutz loret, v'yeshem in emelay lamed shal nitznav v'chadash ala cherusha v'shiva mishkav shev'cholku. The debate is chadash, the concept of waiting for the Korban Omer to be brought. Does this apply only in the land of Israel, or does this apply outside the land of Israel? There are those that say that because the word says, Bechol Meshvei in your places, means that the doors of Chadash only apply in the land of Israel. And outside the land of Israel, one is allowed to eat wheat anytime they want. Others explain that the word Mechol Meshvei applies that they only began after the Jewish people were settled in the land of Israel, but it applies to anywhere, and therefore even outside Israel, we have to follow the laws of Chadash. Verse 15. And you will count, starting on the day after the day of rest, which means on the 15th, you will count for yourselves from the day of the bringing of the Omer Atnufa, which was waved. Sheva Shamos is Tamimis Tiyena, 7 complete weeks. Rashi, from the day after Yom Tov. Tamimis Tiyena, they have to be complete. It means that he's going to start counting in the evening. Because if it's not going to be from the evening, then Ein Tamimis, it won't be complete. Verse 16. You're going to be continuing counting until the day after the 7th week, which is Tisperu Chamishim Yom, will be counting 50 days. And then you will bring a grain offering to Hashem from the new crop. The 7th week, not including the 50th day, meaning you're only counting 49 days total. When are you going to bring this meal offering? On the actual 50th day. On the 50th day, you're going to bring it. I say, this is the way it is. They'll be able to explain it according to the Medrash. According to the simple interpretation, until the day after the 7th week, meaning which is the 50th day. This you will count. The verse has to be rephrased. And therefore, meaning until the 50th day, you will count. Mincha Chadash, a new meal offering. This is the first meal offering which is brought from the new wheat. You're going to say, you already brought the Omer offering. Isn't that from the new meat? But that's not like all the other meal offerings, because that one was brought from the barley. This one you're going to bring from the wheat. And this is the only first one that's going to be brought from the fresh wheat. Verse 17. You must bring bread which was set aside from in the land in which you dwell. What are you going to bring? You're going to bring two tenths of fine flour. Seilas tiyena has to be fine flour. Chometz tiyafena, it should be leavened bread. Bikurim el Hashem, it should be brought as the first grain offering to Hashem. So over here we see a few differences in this meal offering than anything else. Number one, it has to be brought from Elim Chutzlar. It has to be brought from inside the land of Israel. Lechem tenufa, bread, lechem truma. Hamurim l'shem gvur, bread which was designated for God. This is from the new meal offering that we mentioned previously. Bikurim, it's the first one of all the meal offerings that we brought. Even for the mincha which was brought by a sota, which was brought from barley. Nothing else should be brought before the two breads are brought. Now, and number two is the very fact that this is leavened bread. This was the only time that actual chametz was brought in the holy temple, besides for the carbon toda. 18, v'yikraftam al alechem, along with the bread you're going to bring, shivas kvasim, 7 sheep, tamimim, which are unblemished, b'nei shana, a year old, in their first year, par ben bakar, and a young bull, va'elim shnoyim, and 2 rams, you oilad as an ascent offering, Lashem to God, minchasam, and their meal offerings, v'niskeim, and their wild libations, each erech l'chech Lashem, a fire offering as a pleasing offering to Hashem. Halalechem, biglalallechem, because of this bread that you're going to bring. Chayvalallechem, these are obligated because of the bread. Minchasav and Iskeim, their meal libation, and meal offerings and their libations. Kamisha, but mincha nesachim, farashim chobeim, beparashim nesachim. Like we find by any other offering that there were meal offerings and libations that were brought, which are shleish asrenim lapar, 3 esroinim, 3/10 for the cow, shnei esroim laim, 2/10 for the ram, v'yisrael lekeves, and 1/10 for the sheep. Zuya mincha, that's the meal offering from the fine flour. V'hanesachim, and the wine libations were chatzi and lapar, a half a hin for the ox, for the cow, shlishis and a third of hin for the ram, or revius and lekeves, and a quarter of the hin for the sheep. Verse 19. V'asisam sidas imechad l'chatas. You're going to do 1 goat for a sin offering, ushnei kvasim, and 2 sheep in a shana in their first year, lazevach shlamim, for a peace offering. Vasisam zirizim, yochel, I would think shivas akvasim vaser amram kanheim shiva akvas vaser hamunim b'chumash apkudim. I would think that these 7 sheep that we're mentioning here are the same ones of the 7 sheep that are mentioned for the musaf that are mentioned later on in the book of Numbers. If you're going to take the numbers of the sheep and of the cows and the ram, einon heim, these are not the same, because later on it brings 2 that you have in the ram 1, and over here it says 1 ox and 2 ram. Emor miyata. So what do we see from here? Eilu atzman ve'eilu atzman. These are 2 separate sacrifices that we're talking about. Eilu karvi b'gal lechem ve'eilu musaf. One was brought because of the 2 breads. One was brought because of the additional musaf offerings that were brought in honor of the holiday. What is the Kohen going to do with all of them? The Kohen will then wave them together with the breads of the first bread that are brought as a wave offering in front of God. Together with the 2 lambs. They will be holy to God, la Kohen, to the Kohen. This teaches us to unin tenufa chayim. They have to be brought as a wave offering while they're still alive, before they were slaughtered. Yochel, I would think kulam. Yes, to wave them all, including the scent offerings. Talmud Leimer al Shnei Kvasim, only together with the 2 sheep. Kodesh, you would have to be holy, Lafish Shalma Yachid, because they are peace offerings of the individual. Kache Kalim, they are considered not the lighter level of holiness. Huskak Leimer, therefore he has to say, B'Shalmi Tzibur Shem Kein Kache Kache. When it comes to peace offerings, which are communal peace offerings, they then become a superior level of holiness. Verse 21. You will call in the middle of this day, meaning this very day, you will call it as Mikra Kodesh, a holy time. Yilachem will be for you. No mundane work shall be done. This is eternal law in all of your, throughout wherever you live, for future generations. Verse 22. And when you reap the harvest of your land, you must not fully reap the last corner of the field. When you're harvesting, and you must not take the 1 or 2 gleanings that fall. Leave them for the poor and for the convert. I am God, your God. Rashi, the Torah repeats it, even though it already mentioned it previously in chapter 19. It repeats it again over here. Because one who does not do so abrogates 2 negative commandments. Rabbi Abdimah Rabbi Yosef said, why did the Torah find to mention about the importance of thinking about the poor and the convert and leaving their gleanings in the harvest for the poor in the middle of mentioning about the holidays? Pesach v'atzeres mikan v'reshon Yom Kippur kechag. In the middle of telling us over here, in the middle of the holidays of Pesach and Shavuos on one side, and then Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur on the other side, and Sukkot, teaching you, whoever gives the proper gifts to the poor people, whether it's the gleanings that fall or the cornfield to the poor people. The Torah considers it as if he has built the holy temple and brought its sacrifices in it. When you care about the people that are less fortunate, the Torah considers it as if you have built the holy temple and given the sacrifices that are needed. Tazoiv, you should leave it for them. Hanach, leave it. Lifneim veheim laktu, they're going to come and collect it. You don't have to help them. You shouldn't be helping them get it, and because this is not like the other donations that you have to give to the Kohen and to the poor. This is something they can come collect on their own. And Hashem Elokeichem, I am your God, meaning Nemel Shalom Schar, you can trust that you will be repaid for your reward for doing so. This concludes the fourth Torah reading of Parshas Emor.